Great Garvey Day, brothers and sisters. Today we shall be reading from Lesson 14, Self Initiative, from the Message to the People, a course of African philosophy. Every man is his own responsibility in life. Nature never made anyone duly but singly. Therefore, your single responsibility. The purpose of life is to live fully. Hence, the single life must be completed, and in fact, it is so with every man. Therefore, it is the duty of every man to fall back on himself for what he wants. It is necessary for a man to use all of his faculties for his own protection. He always has a reserve of self expression and action upon which to fall to protect and defend himself. Therefore, he must develop his faculties to do things thoroughly for himself. He must rely upon himself for initiating all those things that may contribute to his personal well being. Whatever he wants to do should first come from himself, as he should know what is best for himself. Advice may be helpful, but only to the extent that you have reason and judgment enough to see the value of the advice. Otherwise, it may be harmful. Very few people, if any, who advise others do so completely honest. Generally, they advise with a motive for which the individual must pay the price, whatever the price may be. Therefore, the best individual policy should be that the individual develop in himself or herself the courage to do things on his own account, always counting the costs in benefits or bad results. The person who fails to be true to himself in taking the initiative to do things for himself will ultimately find out that he or she has been a sucker for others. Always surround yourself with the talent of being able to do by yourself so as not to be too dependent. A person who has to depend on others is not himself or herself, but the subject of others. A subject or a medium is apt to break under the influence of the controlling factor. As for instance, a hypnotist who has a controlling factor may so hypnotize his subject as to cause the subject to lose his or her mind. Therefore, try to never be the subject mentally of a factor, because a factor may destroy your opportunity for self reliance and self initiative. Always maintain a strong will and emphasize that strong will even more when from the first reasonable judgments you come to the conclusion that you are right. To come to that conclusion, you must have the facts before in your mind. If your facts are as good as in as is known and can be possibly be gathered on the particular thing on which a decision is to be based, then don't allow anyone but God Almighty to alter your will, because your will is your decision, and your decision is your intelligence, and your intelligence is your personality, and your personality is your self confidence and your initiative. Always try to help yourself. Only when you are completely satisfied that you do not have the ability, knowledge, character, and strength to do for yourself should you call anyone to help you. When you ask others to help you over anything, be sure that they are your very, very, very good friends or relatives. Because if the thing you ask them to help you out of may be valuable to you and would be of value to others, they may take the value for themselves and all that you will get for calling in someone else to do something for you that you should do for yourself is disappointment. You would have the sad experience of learning how bad man is to rob his fellows of their rights. Anything on earth that is of value to you is of interest to another person. If you have a good idea, try to develop it yourself and master it yourself before you ask for help. For at best, you will have to at least share the results with those who help you. Fear God and no other fear. There is a God. No man can say there is no God, because no man is like God. Man is limited in his intelligence at the most, and man knows how insufficient he is between life and death, that he is born without his knowledge and dies without his will or wish, when his birth and death must logically and naturally be controlled by someone else. It could not be man, because man is always a man, whether he be a big man or small man. So power that gives birth and causes death must be greater than man's power. Whatever the power is, it must be an absolute power. Some men call it different names, but they all mean the same thing, and it is God. Therefore, when man says there is no God, he is a fool, for he is not as great as God. Join no one in saying there is no God, and join no one in saying, and join no man in saying he is God, for it is blasphemy. Fear God, but love God. If you love God, you need not fear God, for God is with you. You are a part of him in your goodness. You fear God only when you are conscious of being evil or wicked. Your love, you love God and work with God while you are good. There is nothing in this world that you should fear. Otherwise, for everything in the world is subject to you as man. Never fear man, but understand man, so as to escape the wrath of man and master man. Man is vicious, man is wicked, and you must know that he is. By knowing that he is wicked, you are able to handle him without fearing him. Meet the stare of man with your stare. Never cringe before the stare of man, otherwise he masters you. Develop enough courage, character, boldness, and self confidence to look any man in the face and hold your ground. The first time you take your eyes off him because of his stare, he conquers you because you are unprepared. Look him straight in the eye, keep him covered with your eye, and let him bow and walk off, not you. This is the way man conquers the lion or a wild beast, by staring in the eye. The moment he takes off his eye, the beast will spring upon him. The daring look of man conquers man. The self confidence of man conquers man. The strong character of man conquers man. The conqueror is the fellow with the boldest and longest stare. He hypnotizes his victims and he walks over him like a worm. Never be a worm. Try to never be obligated, for if you are obligated to a man, you cannot stir him to obedience. You will have to bow before him because he has a grip on you. Try then to be free from all obligations to any man, and thus always be yourself. God is pleased when the man lifts himself to the true position in his kingdom of earth and heaven. Look to God. Ask him for strength. Ask him for courage in righteousness, and he will be able to battle in the world of men. Don't ask him for wealth, but ask him for wisdom as Solomon did, and he will open up to you the greater knowledge of goodness. If you are good in your approach to Him through prayer for wisdom, if you ask God for wisdom and understanding, you have everything else, because wisdom and understanding, you will be able to take care of yourself. Therefore, never pray to God for particular things, for individual things. He has already given you all that is necessary for your existence in creation, and He has placed you as Lord and Master over them. Then why worry Him in further prayer for these things? It is a waste of time. It is annoying. It is disgusting to God. If God can be disgusted, seek ye first wisdom and understanding, and all life will unfurl itself through God. The mind and the soul are the receptacles of understanding and wisdom. Cleanse them with protection and approach the source who giveth them, and you shall be eternally blessed. The angels of heaven are the good spirits from earth, and the other planets who have passed through the probation of original life. No man on earth is an angel. The angels are spirits, not men. And that concludes lesson 14 on self initiative.
Yes, sir. Thank you for that reading, brother Race first. Once again, we have the Honorable Marcus Garvey giving us the information on how to conduct our life and how we should go about seeking wisdom and how we should go about even submitting and worshiping the Creator. Um, brother Race first, what's highlighted out for you in this lesson? Are you still with us?
No, I'm still with you. What
Yeah.
highlighted for me was never ask God for
Singular things.
singular things and wealth. Always ask for like wisdom and
Hmm.
understanding, because
Like King
through these
Solomon.
things, yeah, like King Solomon, because like through these things you will attain everything once you have the wisdom and understanding. And I believe sometimes we are too focused on wealth. And sometimes
Hmm.
when we get wealth and these things, we don't know how to manage them correctly because we don't
Remember, there's
have
a
the
saying,
wisdom.
what is a saying? When
A
a
fool and
fool
his
and
money
money,
quickly part ways.
yeah, a fool and money will soon separate or something similar. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And
sure.
another one for the tuggies, like meet the stare of man with
Hmm.
your stare. Never
Never break it.
cringe before the stare
Hmm.
of man, otherwise he masters you. So look at him straight in the eye, keep him covered with your eye, and let him bow and walk
First,
off. So
yes, sir.
in some situations, we have to have a backbone, and we have to stand on our square and in our square, and have no fear, and stand in confidence. Like I like the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey always preached to us, like the confidence and the self-belief and the discipline we must have as we go throughout the world. Like with the confidence and the self-belief, we have already won before we have started. And I believe that's very important, because we as a people, we've taken a lot of L's, and I think there's a lot of confidence like a lot of unconfident people within the community that need the self-confidence and the encouragements to raise up and get out of this vice grip that white supremacy has us under. So that's another thing that stood out to me. And I would say the fact of self-responsibility, like just being, obviously it's good to have a, a community of people that you can reach out to and help and assist you. But before you can reach out to people, you must be like kind of self-reliant on yourself. You must build up yourself. Like this whole principle that we stand off on self-reliance and doing for self as a singular, like I think is very, 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 very important that before we can come out here and master anything, we must true indeed master ourselves. And I will open up the floor to anyone that has any highlights that I may have
Yeah,
missed out, and I'm sure there's plenty.
yeah. Well, every we do this every week, and I end up saying this is my favorite chapter now. Every week, but this one for me, where it starts off by saying every man in his own responsibility in life, nature every man in his own responsibility in life, nature's never made anyone dually but singly, therefore you have a single responsibility. Going to echo what you were saying is like, sometimes we talk about collectiveness, we talk about doing things together, but ultimately as individuals we have a responsibility. I just want to big up brother Sando as well. He's joined the chat. Big up brother Sando, Hope Hall as well. Would you? See, and going just moving on swiftly. You know,
My apologies for that. I'm just trying to get my instruments together. And apologies again for being late. Yeah.
no problem, no
So, okay,
problem, no
yes.
problem.
Okay. Greetings to everybody. Great Garvey Day.
Great Garvey evening. It's better to be
Evening,
late
evening,
than
day.
than here not
Depends
at
where you
all.
are.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes,
That's
indeed.
right.
Great Garvey evening, brother
That's right.
Sando.
I'll just interject, and obviously I'm late, but my apologies for that. Um, I've read is it lesson 14, right? And
Yes, yes,
and
sir.
what I like about one thing that stood out for me this week was where it says it is necessary for a man to use all of his faculties for his own protection. I think
Hmm.
the Right Honourable was just saying something about that.
Yes,
He
that's
always
correct.
has to. He always has to reserve a self-expression and action upon which he can to fall to protect him and defend himself. Therefore, he must develop his faculties to do things thoroughly for himself. He must rely upon himself first for initiating all those things that may contribute to his personal well-being.
Hmm.
Um, that really resonated with me because just like the other honourable was saying, this self-reliance and self-confidence and having that personal, shall I say, mastery of self and developing all of the attributes, which is in all these lessons, is for a heightened individual in every level. So I think for me personally, I will endeavor to develop all of these characteristics, which it's never too late to find out because, like I was saying to the Honourable Commissioner some time ago, we never really had access to a lot of these books. It was what we had, and we more or less sort of went. Now we've got, funny enough, now the information is just coming in, and I can see the need for us to endeavor to protect, to perfect self, to get the best version of ourselves, and to be an ambassador, and to be a leader, and all of the attributes I think which I'm getting from these lessons as an individual, and then obviously as an individual we can contribute to the collective in a more positive way.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for that.
Yes, sir. Yeah, 100%. I see the Honourable President General has joined the chat. Great Garvey Day to you, sir.
Great Garvey Day to you, my brother. Honorable Commissioner, how are you?
I'm doing fine in race first. How are you doing? Finding
President,
out better?
President race first. First race?
Race first.
Let me say it again. First race?
Race first.
That's right.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
How are you? How are you doing, Mr. President?
I'm perfect, if not better. I'm in good company. They saying two or more gathered in his name. Mr. Garvey will be right there in our midst.
Yes,
So,
sir.
yeah, brother
Absolutely.
Sando, the warrior of the house. Uh, he was talking some good talk. He reminded me of an old expression fellas used to use back in the day, that a man is never justified in being anything less than a man at all times. And Mr. Garvey exemplified that quality as well. But greetings, my brother Sando. Yeah.
Greetings, Honorable President General.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, this is a powerful subject here, man.
Yeah,
This is one of my favorites again because it reminds me of how I first um, began to understand what Garvey and Garveyism was. And people always talk about how did he accomplish this and how did Mr. Garvey accomplish that. But when you read this piece here, it lays it out. I mean, it lays it out thoroughly. And Sando was talking about the characteristics on a previous episode. I know we had talked about, well, at least I mentioned, how the Great Wall of China was constructed. And, they did everything they can to build this monolithic structure that could protect the entire country for, decades if necessary. A huge wall. It was too large to scale. It was too thick to breach. It was, took 100 years to put it together. And they built, something that was indomitable, impenetrable. And so finally they felt safe. But within the first 100 years, they got raided and invaded 3 times. And it wasn't because of the structure got breached, no, it wasn't scaled, but only because of the character of those who were working the guard, working the booth. So the people just came in there with a bribe, and the guard let them on in and invade and kill everybody. So you can build all kinds of structures and institutions and organizations, but if the character of the people who are maintaining those things are not in check, are not in order, those whole structures will fall apart like dominoes. They'll break down quite easily. Chain the strongest is weakest link. So it's important that we go over certain characteristics and principles and develop a sense of honor and dignity, as other communities have. And we talked last week a little bit about the fear of God. I know Mr. Garvey mentions that in this particular piece about self-initiative, that we need to fear God, or properly, you say fear the displeasing of the Almighty God. And so when you have this fear of His displeasure, I think about some of these old kung fu movies we used to watch, where at this, side of a student making a mistake or losing a fight, he drops down to his feet and, "Oh, master, please forgive me. I dishonored you." And that's kind of obeisance paid. Oh, great one, and I'll never let it happen again. I'll work harder every day, and just please give me another chance. But this is the kind of fear of displeasing the Almighty and not doing our job and fulfilling our divine objective and injunction that He placed upon us to have our own vine and fig tree. And if we don't do that, we should fear His displeasure. So self-initiative is about having something to motivate you to get up and get out and get on, with your work every day and accomplish everything that you can and get ready for tomorrow. It's gonna be even more, to do. So having that, self-initiative is important. Because in many ways, like if you look at, what it took Mr. Garvey to build the UNIA, he built in the middle of a war. This was no punk leader. He wasn't scared and waiting to see what happened first. He was building and organizing, preparing us while these other folks were going, toe to toe, blow for blow, and killing each other by the millions. And Mr. Garvey organized the largest black mass movement in the history of the world at that time. And he organized it because he had that self-initiative. He was a motivational speaker of sort. And he can get people to do things that they otherwise would never have even considered doing. And he accomplished things that others never accomplished. And by erecting this universal umbrella by which all of these previous smaller disjointed programs could come together under one empire structure and build a self-governing, self-reliant, self-determined institution for us. It was, the height of perfecting self-initiative. You can't build anything like he did, where he was speaking and traveling 38 states in the U.S. alone, just off of grit. I mean, he didn't have a whole lot of money. This man had heart. And once you have that kind of heart, that kind of conviction, that kind of power, nothing can stop you. So his ability to do all these great things goes always back to the self initiative, and something that we can certainly learn from, because he exemplified it on a master level that I can't see anybody outperforming him. So like I tell some of my brothers in the Moorish Science Temple, we call Mr. Garvey the forerunner. I respect that. He did inspire Prophet Noble Drew Ali. But if you're going to call him a forerunner, just make sure you also point out that he was an outrunner, and an outdoer, and an outperformer, and an outthinker, and out of this world. Because he was the baddest black man ever graced our race or walked the third rock from the sun, bar none, as far as I'm concerned. So thank God for Marcus
Okay.
Garvey.
Yes, sir. Facts. That's that's facts. I don't know if you had finished, but you done said a lot, President General. I don't know if there's anything I need to add. I think maybe we need to stop the YouTube today. The lesson is done. People just need to listen back to that one. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But but going back to the chapter, I think that there's so much gems in this one. There's I mean, we say this every week, but there's so much gems in there. Like I'm looking at one right now, and it says the person who fails to be true to himself in taking the initiative to do things for himself will ultimately find out that he or she has been a sucker for others. And you find out that when you're not standing on your own 2 feet, when you're not doing for self, you're ending up doing for other people. And when you do for other people, sometimes they don't respect you, and you end up being that sucker. You know what I'm saying? So a person we must defend, or defend our rights, defend what we think, and act upon it. There was something else that I saw, yeah. Oh yeah, here it is. You must have the facts before you in your mind. If your facts are as good as it's known, and can possibly be gathered on a particular thing on which a decision is to be based, then don't allow anyone but God Almighty to alter your will. And there's many different things. Even we was having a discussion earlier on today with some of the presidents, and different opinions, as always amongst great minds. We reason and stuff, but when we have our facts, that we've just got to stand on the square, as they say. You stand on your square, and we build from that square. If you're wishy-washy on certain things, people are not going to really respect you. And I think that since recent histories, the confusion amongst a lot of things has kind of made the movement a bit wishy-washy. Because people will look, where's the Garveyites today? Where are they? It's a good question. Where are they, brothers and sisters? We are the Garveyites. We know that for sure. But as a whole, as a nation of people, where is that conviction that Mr. Garvey had? Where's that drive and that determination, that unstoppable force? Our President General just mentioned the outrunner. They said he was the forerunner, but he outrun everybody. Even to this day, we still marvel at his accomplishments. And Garvey has even told us anything that man has done before, we can do it. So in saying that, we have in our hands the intelligence in this book to give us that confidence, to give us that inspiration to be a better person for our nation. And it starts from self. Garvey's telling you is, always try to help yourself. So it starts from within you, not without you. Where a lot of times we're trying to do things without us. No, it starts from within us. That's the first thing. And then it comes into your mind. And then from your mind, you'll be able to manifest things. So we need to get the mind right. And you get your mind right by information. The right information. Because the right information makes you confidence. It gives you that confidence to go anywhere in any settings, whether you have prime ministers, presidents, or local people in the shindig or the party. You're able to go there confident. And you get that confidence from studying, brothers and sisters. I see you unmuted, President General. I don't want to keep you unmuted. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, you just firing me back up. But yeah, confidence is everything, man. Confidence, speaking truth to power. It's without confidence itself, of course, Mr. Garvey said we twice defeated in the race of life, but with confidence we won before we even started.
That's correct.
And when you look at, what African fundamentalism teaches us about adopting a new faith, African people the world over should have one faith in ourselves. As I mentioned before, when we had another brother, Minister Imani, on, we talked about autotheism, learning to believe in yourself, having some faith in you, loving your divinity to infinity. And when you become Lord over your own dominion and over your own domain, then you have a certain sense of responsibility to become a great steward of your vine and fig tree, of your own, place on this earth. And you got to protect it, because you don't own it unless you can protect it. So it puts a certain responsibility on us to be stronger than we may have, in society, in modern day society. Um, People live in a highly mechanized, so everybody has different responsibilities. So whereas before we grew up in years, say a few hundred years ago, everybody knew how to farm because you had to eat. Everybody knew how to do certain building in their own home. Everybody had certain fundamentals. Now all I do is to go to work and do ABC. And then I need somebody to fix my car. I don't know anything about cars. I need somebody to fix my house. I don't know anything about houses. I need somebody to cook for me or make some groceries. I don't know anything about farming. So I'm not really a person who's self-reliant in those senses of knowing how to do for myself. I just know how to go out and get some money and then come back and pay somebody else to do things. But when you think about being a complete human and able to do certain fundamentals and things for yourself, it develops a whole different mindset, certain responsibilities you have to maintain. If you want to eat, you got to farm. If you want to, not have the rain coming in and everybody gets sick, you got to make sure you patch that roof. You got to make sure you do certain things. So when you have these skill sets and you have this mindset of doing for self, of being a complete human, you may not never fix the whole house from the ground up, but taking initiative. Certain things you have to be willing to learn and relearn and work and do. Or yeah, you're definitely gonna be taken advantage of by a lot of people. I remember when I first got my car years ago, and I had bought this car from a lot across the street from where I live. I bought the car, and the car owner said, "Man, I give you a month. Anything goes wrong, just bring it to me and I'll fix it." So I said, "Okay, that's it. Fair enough." 2 days later, it started to rain, and my windshield wipers weren't working. They weren't moving. So I called the guy, and he said, "Oh, take it past the shop. They'll fix it." I went past the shop, and the guy who was working there, I just brought it past and said, "Hey, man, my wiper's not working." And he looked at it and said, "Oh, turn them on. Oh, I see what's going on. Your motor's not working. You're going to have to pay $150 to get a new motor, and we can install it, and it's going to be a few more dollars." And so I said, "Oh, I'm not paying for this." The owner said, "You are going to fix it for me." So he said, "Oh, you got this car from here?" So then he called the owner, and the owner said, "Yeah, yeah, fix it for him." The guy pulled out a screwdriver, tightened the screw, and said, "Turn them on again," and the windshield wiper started working. So I was like, "Hold up! All this time you knew all I needed was to tighten the screw, and yet you were going to rip me off for a couple $100 because of my ignorance and not knowing, the basics myself of how to get this car fixed or what may or may not be wrong, how to troubleshoot it." But sometimes your ignorance and not wanting to, being too lazy to, take initiative and learn certain things, some do-it-yourself projects, etc. All those are important also to learn, as we develop in our whole self. We got to really be initiative takers. And I have to tell y'all later off air about this old joke about procrastination. Because as I was thinking about self initiative, there's certain uh, things that block self initiative sometimes when we're supposed to do for self. Sometimes you having a past failure will stop you from wanting to get up and do certain things, thinking you can't do it again. And sometimes procrastination, sometimes it's just people keep opposing you every time you start to do something, or maybe you're suffering hard times and you ain't got no money and you can't really focus on certain things right now because you're depressed. But all these things have a solution to them if we, have that self initiative and have that confidence in ourselves. And if you follow Mr. Garvey, you really ought to have confidence in yourself because that man had absolute confidence in himself and would tell anybody, the judge, his own case. He'd let him know when the judge threatened him with left and right. He told him, he ain't scared of no man. Jail can go to hell as far as Marcus Garvey is concerned. Ain't nobody holding nothing over top of him. And when you got that kind of strength and conviction, whoo, nothing can come in your way to harm you. And in some ways, in fact, Mr. Garvey once said that the source of his success was opposition. You oppose me and I'll fight no more. And in many ways, your opposition, your enemy, those that oppose you, actually define how great you become because they show what you will overcome when you finish defeating and toppling every, evil, wicked design it is. And it shows what you are capable of, and it really proves your self-worth. So anyway, but yeah, and going back anyway to Mr. Garvey as a disciple of Marcus Garvey, and disciple we know the root word, of discipline. Um, in order to be a disciple, it's different from being a student or being someone who just happened to learn a few things from a person. I know Brother Sando can attest to that. When you're a disciple, you submit to the greater knowledge of those who you're studying from. I remember when I first got into the martial arts, and I think I shared the story with you all before. When I first got into martial arts, I've been somewhat of a bully in junior high school. So I started studying. I'm like, I know a little bit about fighting because I've been beating people up on the street. But when I got to the kung fu, studio, first started training, they have the brown and the black belts spar at the end of doing our flow drills and all this kind of stuff. So we would sit around circle and they would be in the side doing their little sparring matches. And so I used to sit on the sideline and tell people, hey man, look, he did this wrong. He should have did this. See, the reason he lost is because of this. Blah 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 blah. All this talking and from the sideline, telling everybody who did what right and wrong. So my teacher saw me sitting there coaching people from the sideline, telling everybody what's right and what's wrong. So he said, okay, I'm gonna test him out. So he said, young man, come here. I want you to get in the ring with this brown belt. So I'm like, okay, I don't care. Shoot. So he get in the ring and say, all right, y'all spar. Don't get kicked out the ring. Don't do the first move. The guy kicked me right out of the ring like it was easy. And I was like, whoa. So teacher said, okay, now what did you do wrong? And I was like, well, I mean, I was a little off balance. I didn't expect him to do that reverse roundhouse like that. He's like, okay, well, get back in the ring. Let me see if you do something else. So, we danced around a little bit. The guy got me again, kicked me out the ring again, knocked me on my butt. And he said, okay, what did you do wrong this time? So I didn't keep my guard up, and I shouldn't have moved this way, that way. Okay, well, come back in the ring, do it again. Third time, he kicked me out of the ring. He said, okay, now what did you do wrong this time? And I had to admit, man, I don't know. He said, good. That's the smartest thing you said all day. Now sit down, shut up, and I'll teach you what happens and what's right and what's wrong. And once you know my way, then you can go out and start doing your own thing and teaching and talking to everybody about something else. As long as you're in here, you need to learn my way first. Whatever you were doing, it ain't working for you. So adopt my way. And once you see how to do it my way and be successful, then you can add and do whatever else you want to it. So when I came into Garveyism, I came in with the same level of discipline. And I wanted to be an absolute disciple of Mr. Garvey. If whatever I was thinking, they did nothing for me. I ain't had no ships. I didn't have no 12 million members. I ain't have no grocery stores. And I didn't have any universities and hotels and none of that above. But his plan worked like a charm. And so, we're going to really be students and disciples of Marcus Garvey and disciplined in the philosophy and have that program that we adopt. Man, we got to be serious about this and convicted about it and have a system of honor where we make sure we are doing the things that we stress to be done. Certain things that we advises us to do if we are going to be successful. And so looking at that whole book on not just the self-initiative, but the entire lessons, man, that's gold. I mean, that really produces almost a superhuman, a person that can perform even miracles if you follow the plan of the Honorable Marcus Garvey, who considered himself a ordinary person, but with extraordinary conviction. And we can develop that extraordinary conviction too if we have the self-initiative, as our beloved founder did.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I just want to piggy bank of what you said, Mr. President General.
You can
Like,
veggie back, no piggy bank.
no doubt. I want to read a little verse here that resonated with me Like, always maintain a strong will and emphasize the strong will. Even more when the first reasonable judgment you come to the conclusion that you are right. To come to that conclusion, you must have the facts before in your mind. If your facts are as good as it is known and can be possibly be gathered on that particular thing, or which is a decision it is to be based, then don't allow anyone but God Almighty to alter your will, because your will is your decision, and your decision is your intelligence, and your intelligence is your personality, and your personality is your self-confidence and your initiative. So I've read all of that, and what resonated me with me there was with the willpower. Like, the will is such an amazing thing. Like, I always say, in this movement that we're in, the UNIA, like, we are in the superhero building business. Like, we are really trying to build superheroes within the community, to go out in the community and help the community and uplift the community. And one superhero movie in particular, because I'm into my like superhero movies, like Batman Begins. Like, there's a scene in there where Batman is going through training. He's trying to join the League of Shadows, so he's going through training by his mentor and trainer, Ra's al Ghul, who is the leader of the League of Shadows. So they're training now, and as they're training, they're doing some martial arts, and Ra's al Ghul's asking him certain things like, okay, when your parents died, why didn't your father do anything? And he said, oh, the man had a gun. So they're kicking some more, training some more. Then Ra's al Ghul said, but that's never stopped you. Then Ra's al Ghul then Batman tells him, oh, I've had training. And Ra's al Ghul tells him that training is nothing. Will is everything. Like, the will to act in any situation can trump training, everything. So willpower is a very important thing when we go out and meet the people. The will to act, the will to get up, the will to meet the people, the will not to be discouraged, and all these things. So I just felt I had to get that off, and I'm gonna leave it to anyone else to come and chime in.
Yes, give
I'll
thanks for
say
that.
something if you don't mind,
Yes, sir.
Honourable. As we're looking at the deeper meaning of the text in lesson 14, and the one that grabs me here, I was, like I say, if you look through it, I think we just have to keep going. I've been reading it over and over again anyway. I don't just read one thing one time. I read it, and but this part here where it says, "The mind and the soul are receptacles of understanding." I'd say overstanding and wisdom. Cleanse them with protection and approach the source who giveth them, and you shall be eternally blessed. But what I'm looking into is the first where it says the mind and the soul are the receptacles. So he's actually telling us there, which is a deeper metaphysical meaning, that we have the mind and the soul is separate from the mind. That's what I picked up from it. So we've got the mind, and then we've got a higher level of whatever you want to call it, perception, whatever, which he calls the soul. And in Egyptology, that's called the Ba. In the Kemet, that's the Ba. The soul is the Ba, the Ka and the Ba. So Marcus Garvey is saying the mind and the soul are separate. They're two separate things, and if you are the receptacles of understanding and wisdom. So if wisdom comes through the soul or the mind, or each, or in turn, that is a very deep, very, very deep statement that could easily be missed. Cleanse them with protection, cleansing with protection, and approach the source. What is the source? Who giveth them? I think he's talking about the cosmos, the universe, the God, or the Most High, in a different terminology. And you shall be eternally blessed. That is a very powerful, to me, I don't know if the other honourables have picked up on that, or maybe I'm the only one. I don't know. I'm not saying because we've all read it, but that seems it's like 3-dimensional. It's metaphysical. It's spirit, mind, body, spirit, and soul in a few sentences, and how to cleanse, and how to protect, and to approach the source who giveth them. So he's actually pointing to a source, or an energy field, or a higher dimension, that if we cleanse it, if we approach the source and give it and really protect it and look after it and keep it clean, wow, that is very powerful. I think that is very powerful. Self-protection, perfection, cleanliness, spiritual, heightened spiritual perception, conception of the mind, body, and soul, and how there's a higher force, a higher entity that gives everything, and you will be eternally blessed. I'm wondering if Mr. Garvey obviously had mastered all of these attributes, and is this a key? Could these one, two, maybe one sentence, half a paragraph, be the key to a lot of our problems? I don't know. Maybe somebody will have something to interject and say on that. Thank you.
Yes, sir. I got something to say about that, but I wanted to respond to race first, because race first sounds about right.
First
But
race.
the next paragraph to what you was reading, my brother, yeah, for me, that is something that we need to really think about. And it goes, always try to help yourself. Only when you are completely satisfied that you do not have the ability, knowledge, character, and strength to do for yourself should you call anyone to help you. Now, I remember years ago, yeah, my friend used to make joke about me saying that I just think I could do everything. So he says, I bet you can't peel this orange in one pill. So, me confident. I said, yeah, of course I can. And I did it. But, I had the confidence. Maybe I don't know what it is about me, but I just felt that I could do it. And when I look through my life up until this point, I always try to do the thing before I ask for help. Whatever it is, I remember even when I was laying floorboards, I didn't know how to lay floorboards. But I've seen so many people do it that I said, I can do that. Even with tiling, I said, well, I can tile. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, if man has done it before, I can do it. That's always been, and this is even before. Well, I could actually no. Well, the orange skin was before I read message to the people, but all these other things came after. I'm not going to no man to do something for me that I can do for myself. If I call a man to do something for me, best believe that I can't do it. I just can't do it. I've tried. I can't do it to the standard that I want to do it. But even Garvey even takes it further when he goes, when you ask others to help you over anything, be sure that they are very, very, very good friends or relatives. Because if that thing you ask them to help you out may be valuable to you, it would be valuable to others, or would be of value to others. That, so we got to be careful who we ask help from, because if it's something valuable, they may take your idea. You share like in your ignorance. Now go ahead, brother Sando.
Yeah, absolutely, Honourable Commissioner. Absolutely, what you've said there, and I'm just looking at life experiences now, and what you're saying, and what the Honourable Race First was saying, and I found out in my life that, not saying in my life, but in the experiences, that if you can get to the point where you're absolutely empty. I had an experience like this in Africa years ago, and people used to say, "Oh, you're on holiday. You never know what Africa's like until the day when you wake up and you don't know what you're going to eat in the morning, and you don't know what you're going to eat in the evening." I said, "Wow, I don't want to get that. I don't want to be like that." And you do everything in your powers to make sure that you've always got something to cover you for the next day. But these things do happen, and what I've found out is from personal experiences, when you do reach that point where you think that you need to call somebody, you know, and you think, oh, I can't do this anymore. Oh, I've just got to call somebody. That is a moment of strength. That is a moment of power. And it's just the same with martial arts. We're talking about martial arts. I travel the world on my own. I don't travel with any entourage or with any bodyguard, but it's confidence. And what I'm saying is that if a person, say, he lacks confidence, he lacks sort of, just he feels that he's not as powerful or he's not as strong or whatever as other people, then that would be, like you say, he's going to get swallowed up. Confidence is just, I think, how you perceive yourself. What I'm trying to get is that when you get into these stages where you need help, try and resist another day. Try and do without. Try not to call in somebody. Try not to ask for help. Rather than think, oh yeah, I'm flat on my face now, and this warrants me calling somebody for help. Well, in my life experience, when I've been like that, there was never anybody around to pick you up. And even the most, shall I say, long-lasting friends or relatives or whoever you might think that might be. And I don't know if anybody's experienced it, because when you make that call, and it's that call, when you make that call to that person and you think, wow, this person's going to help me. This person's not going to let me down. This person's going to help me. And you call that person and they say, I'm sorry, I can't do nothing. And what that is teaching you, and what Marcus Garvey, I think, is teaching, is to don't let that happen in your life. Don't get to that point where, you just feel so inept and you're so down, and then you go and ask a person. Like he says in the, he says, don't steal from the UNI. If you're really in that, if you're really sort of desperate, beg. Better to beg than to steal. If you're that desperate, at the point that you just no way out and you can't overcome that moment of whatever it is that's keeping you in that sort of vibration, some people go and steal, which is a common thing in the world today. I'm not going to make it. I can't top up my electricity. I haven't got no gas. Whatever. And that's I'm having you say. Tell you the truth. Let me just reiterate and elaborate a little bit on it. I was watching something today. I love the Gambia, and I've been going there for years. But today, before the meeting, I was just scrolling, and I saw a very alarming report from a gentleman from London who had moved to the Gambia. And it's about all of a sudden there's a spate of repatriates, or people who are leaving from America, professionals, retired people who are going to the Gambia, are getting murdered in some very sort of, shall I say, suspicious or robbery. In one case, there was a guy who had bought a truck. I think I said it a few weeks ago, that a lot of people think that the African is more, the Africa is the black man is his best friend, and the black man, is going to be like his best brother in Africa. And I said, no, this is far from the case. This man would worked all his life in England and went to Gambia and bought a truck, the dumper truck. He was going to go around and bring materials to different parts and help the people to develop their house. He obviously saw there was a need and there was a business. The boy that he had driving the truck ambushed him one day and stabbed him, killed him, chucked his body out. And I'm sorry to be morbid, but chucked his body out. And obviously his plan was to go and sell the truck, get the money, and get one of these rubber dinghies and come to Europe. That's the moral of the story. I think it fits in with a lot of things that we're saying about confidence, self-reliance, not asking people for help when you need it. And when we do get into that position, and we do ask, like Marcus Garvey says, when you do ask for help, and this has happened to me a lot of time, people have, and it's happened to all of us. People do ask us for help, or we ask people for help, but that there has to be a repayment somewhere along the line. And these are perfect lessons. I don't want to go on too much, but my brothers and sisters, my brothers, I don't know if there's any sisters in the room, but my brothers, I'm sure that self-reliance, confidence, we talk about martial arts. I'll just go on a little bit. There's few in the room. Martial arts is something that I've paid a lot of attention to in my lifetime. I don't talk about it a lot. And I think I grew up in Brixton. Yeah, I grew up in Brixton, around Effra Road, the front line, Railton Road, all around Brixton, everywhere, north, south, east, west, everywhere. I'm talking about the 70s, just before the riots, just after the riots, and I'm coming up. And in Brixton, there was a time when everybody loved one another as a people in Brixton. And we went into one another's house and we had parties and we had this and we drank, and the food was free. Until you just what it changes, and then people start walking around with machetes and choppers and whatever and all kind of things. But I always walked around in Brixton with my head up. I'm very small in stature. I'm not the sort of 6'2", 6'3", but I'm very small in stature. And I had loads of fights. I was in fights, like whether it was with the white boys or the skinheads or the mods and the cons and football, Chelsea supporters, Millwall supporters. We lived a life of, we learned to fight on the streets. There was no need to go in the ring. There was no need to go and take on professional fighting because all our fights were real everywhere we went. And this is why I always advocate that martial arts is a very important part of a nation's development and of a nation's ability to protect themselves against any adverse hostility, and from other races in particular. And Marcus Garvey actually states, he says that if the guy with the bigger gun and with the bigger ammunition is trying to say, well, let's have racial equality, and within trying to achieve this racial equality and this sort of amalgamation of different races to say that they're one, is at the end of it. And really, this point really did strike me in my readings this week, is that he's saying that the white man, the European, the Caucasian, we are trying to simulate, we are trying to be like a multinational, multiracial, multifaceted society of all different cultures. I think Honourable Commissioners often makes comments on it, and is that when they come and say, give us my name back, give us my shirt back, give us my building back, give me back my car, where we will be? We'll be naked. We will be naked. So we've got to have the full armor. If we're in a battle, we have to have the full armor. We have to be prepared. And like I think I had a conversation with the Right Honourable Commissioner. And back in the day in the 70s, which is what I'm trying to come to, back in the 70s, 80s, luckily that we had people that were self-taught. Yeah. In fact, I think a lot of our generations from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, I think a lot of us coming up, because in the 60s, 70s, we grew up without mobile phones. We grew up without the internet. We grew up without access to the books. We grew up without the access to the literature and to the teachers and the instructors and the coaches. We learned ourselves because we wanted to learn, and the things that we wanted to learn, and we learned it. So, this inalienable rights that we're trying to do for self-determination is going to encompass all of the facets of these things, from what we're reading from lesson 14, whether it's physical, spiritual, or in whatever way, to look a man in the eye and don't back away. And there's times in real life when you have to look a man in the eye. There's times in life when you'll meet, I've met guys who are 6'4" and whatever, bouncers, and you've got to stand up and look them in the eye. But what gives you that confidence? What gives you that confidence is not because you're it's not because you're bigger than that person, or because you necessarily train in martial arts. I always say that training in martial arts doesn't mean anything on the street. Training in martial arts is having, like you say, standing on the square. I like that. I like that analogy. Yeah, standing on the square, because I use it in martial arts. And when you get to that point where you say you're not going to move left, right, forward, or back, I'm going to stand here, and I'll fall here. I'm going to stand in this square. It's a good fighting principle, because when you have developed that mentality, and the other guy looks into your eye, and he sees that you've got that mentality, that you're not going out of this square, you're going to stand there, and you're just going to. And there's ways to train that. So, gentlemen and honourables, I must advocate that. I read The Art of War a lot. I read the 48 Powers a lot, and I think Marcus Garvey, from what he's saying in a lot of these chapters, I can see certain philosophies coming out in what he's written, and I'm trying to adopt them into my every being. And when I say adopt them, is that yes, we can train for a little bit, we can exercise the mind, whatever, but What I'm thinking of is to train a nation, our people. It should be a part of our curriculum. This is what we're pushing for, especially in Africa, is that martial arts should become a curriculum in the school. It should become a study. Obviously, because of colonialism, they don't want our youth to grow up with this inspired strength and this indomitable spirit. So they're going to do everything in their powers to stop. Whereas in China, I think more people practice martial arts on a daily basis than the whole population of Europe. So what is the difference when you look at the cultures? What is the difference? Discipline. Martial arts is discipline. Life is discipline. Obviously, Marcus Garvey showed that discipline. Being able to read, and I've heard the Honourable Commissioner and the Honourable President and the Honourable President General talk about this attitude, how we should install it in our lives and how we should develop it. Obviously, we're not going to do it on a short term, but over a period of time, and with good coaching or with good mentoring, because we're trying to reach a level, we're trying to reach the highest level of our human existence that we might be able to influence and to pass on these attributes like Marcus Garvey. They said Marcus Garvey never really written a book. He'd never really written a novel as such, and that the message to the people is the closest thing to a novel that he's written. And yet it attracts so much, and it's a strength. I can actually say to Honourable Commissioner that it actually changed my life as well in the last few weeks. My perception and my goals, and should I say, trying to emulate those teachings into my personal life, knowing that I'm trying to get to a pinnacle of, or to reach to a level of eloquence that will be of use to my race. Because, like Marcus Garvey says, even with the Europeans, they always use the most uneducated people, the most uneducated man and woman, to subdue and to fight and to kill the black man. Yeah, the educated man is sitting somewhere drinking whatever he's doing, but it's the uneducated man, the people that don't have the, and even in today's society, wherever we go, it's the uneducated man, shall I say, the uneducated, who cause a lot of afflictions onto the societies which they live on. So I'm going to come down now because I'll go on too much. I'm saying this because I won't be here after next week. I'll be in Africa, and I just want to thank you all for the inspiration. I'm going there with Marcus Garvey's philosophy. I'm going there with Message of the People. I'm going with a lot of other literatures on my laptop, on my phone, and pictures and everything. And I'm going there invigorated, and I'm going there, like I say, with that self-confidence. Yeah, on my own, with that self-confidence that Marcus Garvey's work must be accomplished, and that with that doctrine and with those knowledge and the teachings, I feel so confident knowing that I've got the message to the people, and I've got the other documents and things that I never had before. And I'm going to go there, I'll be able to read. And what I'm hoping to do is to elevate myself in Garveyism while I'm in Africa from next week. And I'm hoping that, yes, Marcus Garvey was right when he said we should look to Africa. Marcus Garvey was right when he said we should strive for Africa, and that we should, obviously be there, those who want to be there. And I love Jamaica. Nowhere is nicer than Jamaica, I swear. Nowhere is more beautiful than my island of Jamaica. But Marcus Garvey's work is at the forefront of our aspirations. Marcus, to the accomplishment of it in any kind of way. So while I'm there, hopefully I'm going to go and speak to some of the members that I knew that were active Garveyites there, to find out what the situation is on the ground, to find out how the division is coming on, to find out how they're functioning, and whatever that I can do. I think the sergeant of arms is going to pick me up at the airport. So I'm going to go straight to the UNIA in Liberia, and it is part of my mission. I want to go and see, because sometimes things can happen along the way and whatever, but to shore things up, to make preparations for future developments, to network, to let them know that yes, Garvey lives, and that there are people in the Western Hemisphere who will always be coming to these parts of the world, and we're always going to be coming with development. We're all going to be coming with a sound doctrine of Garveyism, you know, and a strong spiritual content, and one that contains empathy and all of the attributes of humanity that we could actually sort of elevate ourselves to. So, gentlemen, next week I won't be here. This is a sort of a bye-bye. I want to thank Race First, First Race. I want to thank the President General, Mariama. I want to thank you, and especially Commissioner Malek, for your support and for your encouragement since I've met you. And obviously, I'm going to report it back to you while I'm away. So I just want to say thank you very much. And I'll come down now and let somebody else talk.
Well, have a safe journey. We definitely pray that Garvey is with you, and that you have every success you desire while you're there, and yeah, we can stay in touch while you're over there. As things go on, if we can be supportive in any way, because you're definitely a man on a mission, and your mission is our mission. So you're not alone, but definitely appreciate you on all the things you
Well,
did.
thank you so much, President General. And that's what I'm doing. I don't normally divulge my traveling, but when it comes to the race, when it comes to Marcus Garvey, and I think in all the years I've been traveling, this is the first time I've publicly announced. So I'll be in Africa next week. I'll be in Liberia. It's an ongoing project. It's an ongoing work since 1997. You know, and I just think, no, no, say I think, I know, having been there and having known about James R. Stewart, and having been to the Firestone plantation, and even without proper divisions actually functioning in those parts of the world, our Garveyism is in a lot of people's minds in their everyday living, and and how powerful that man was, because without institutions or without working or sort of functioning divisions, Garvey is still there. They still have his books. They still know of his philosophies, and and in fact, um, you know, like you said, he will come in a whirlwind, and I think I can witness that he has come back in several whirlwinds, and by the attitude of the people, um, who in far off places, in distant places, even in the remotest jungle or remote areas, I say forest, it's not a jungle, diversity, biodiversity, and you'll find that people who are packed with the information and the opinions and philosophy of Mark. That's the most. I think that's one of the most motivating things to me. To see that the manifestation of that, and to know that there's so many people, but they're undercover. For what reason I don't know. They're undercover for whatever reason, but I'm sure, on past experiences, that yes, there is a whirlwind of Garveyites. I think I'll refer to Ezekiel 37. The valley of the shadow of the dry bones. And I know that in when I read that Psalms 37 about the valley of the shadow, the valley of the dry bones, and how they came together, and they became flesh, and they became sinews, and they became a great exceeding army. And I tend to think yes. I think yes, I could see how that sort of analogy could fit into Garveyism, because there is so much people, there is so much, like, people you might not know, you might not even think, but they're just waiting. They're just waiting there for that call. They're just waiting there for that trumpet to blow, you know. And I think that gives me a lot of confidence, because not everything that you see on the just because what you see on the surface can also lead to that there's a much stronger root underneath the surface, going a much deeper with much more power. So, yes, all I can say is raise first to you, gentlemen, and Miriama, thank you so much, Commissioner Commissioner Malak, raise first. We are blessed. I am blessed to be amongst your company. I'm blessed to be sharing knowledge with you. I've learned so much in such a short time that it's given me that power and that strength, and like you said, that confidence, because I don't think anybody could actually. I don't think any church. They never have it anyway. I don't think any church or anybody, will be able to come and well, they can't. They never do. I've got too much ammunition, And when I go there, I'm going there. I know that a lot of people will come to me for the knowledge that I've obtained from my fellow brothers and sisters in the UNIA. And when I speak to them, you know, I'm speaking what I've read and what I've learned from you, from my brothers and sisters within the UNA, especially Division 284 in the last 4 weeks. So I'm going there representing Division 284 for the first time.
The mighty 284. That's right.
Yes, I'm going there to represent. When I say represent, I will talk of Division 284. I will encourage interactions and networking with those people that are there. And I will do my best to propagate the works of Marcus Garvey. I've got an ongoing project, and that's one of the reasons why I'm going. I think me and Commissioner have spoken about it. But obviously, I'm going to do some fact finding and see what's on the ground and see what I can put on the table for the UNA, Division 284 in London. And I'm working on putting something on the table to the Commissioner or to the President. And obviously, hopefully, it'll reach up to the higher hierarchy, the President General, and et cetera, for due consideration as a group of people coming together to achieve something in the name of Marcus Garvey, not in the name of Sando, but in the name of Marcus Garvey. Anyway, so thank you very much, gentlemen, for allowing me to speak for so long. Okay, and what can I say is race first.
First race.
First race.
Before you say that, President General, sorry to cut you. Our elder brother, or my elder brother, I should say, Shaka Baraki, he wants the link to be sent to him. Can you do that for us, please?
Yeah, send it to him. That's why
He's asking. He's asking for the link for the actual chat, not the YouTube. He's in the comments, so he's got the link for the YouTube, but not the StreamYard. So if you could send that over to him, that would be appreciated.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Appreciate all the wisdom shared. And yeah, there was a lot of things as folks were talking. I was thinking about dealing with the topic again of self-initiative. I remember years ago I had written a piece for my brothers and sisters who are incarcerated, because I used to try to send some words of encouragement to the folks behind bars, because they sometimes are victims of a brand of institutionalization, and we need to do a whole lot more for them. So I had written them years ago, to not be intimidated by some of those correctional officers who act like they're some slave masters on a plantation, and don't confuse your freedom from prison as being free. There's a lot more dues you got to pay, and just get out of jail don't mean you're free. But also, in the process of developing, faith and knowledge and self, certain things you certainly have to understand, about, like, for example, I was looking at this piece again where I was talking about faith and self, allowing nobody to brand you as a criminal once you allow the redemptive gospel of Garveyism to actuate your mind and mold your character. Your spiritual conviction to these moral charges outweigh your criminal conviction and charges. So what you were is not who you are. Prisons only offer reformation. The UNIA offers transformation. However, no philosophy or program can do anything for you until you make up your mind to do something for yourself. And also pointed out a piece on time, and Mr. Garvey spoke to about not wasting time, because that also kills self-initiative, procrastination. So I mentioned that time is unyielding and unforgiving. Stop counting days and make those days count. Stop serving time and make time serve you. Turn that jail into a barrack and prepare yourself for the war to restore order in your community. Convert that prison into a university and learn all you need to master your environment and exercise dominion over your affairs. Transform that facility into a monastery and cultivate the spiritual conviction necessary to endure all adversities and accomplish everything you will. Remember, tough times don't last, but tough people do. And sometimes just remembering some of those wise words from some of the great honorable leaders of old, particularly, words of Mr. Garvey, particularly for our situation. But certainly, the brother Sando was mentioning about, the laws of power and the art of war and all these other materials. A lot of that philosophy and knowledge and understanding will help um, you get up and out and do things because sometimes we are procrastinating for different reasons. Sometimes we want to sit back on our laurels and think we've done enough and that we want to count yesterday's points on the day's scoreboard as if we can do that. And we don't want to get out and actually do more work and continue every day with a new agenda and new ideas and new program and continue to work. It just makes us sit back and get lazy. But if we want to actually accomplish all that we will to accomplish, we're gonna have to get out there and be motivated. Yeah, we're gonna have some suffering or some defeats along the way. Defeat is inevitable, but quitting is inexcusable. And so, and even when we have oppositions, they say a setback is nothing but a setup for a comeback. So, as Dr. Khaled once said, in the laboratory of life, every experiment is a success, even if it teaches you what not to do again. So we were once on top, as Mr. Garvey used to say, we were once the highest rung on the ladder. We were at the top of the circle. Is the torchbearers, the advanced guard of all that was worthwhile. And in the process of evolution, we lost our place. But the world keeps turning, and so those who were on top once may sometimes fall. But there's constant change going on and constant opportunities to get back on top. And when we do get back on top, that's when we take full advantage and do everything we can. But we can't quit in the middle of the game. So as they used to say in New Orleans, when the floods came, Hurricane Katrina, there was a time when the floods rose and the fish had to eat the ants. But then the floods receded and the ants ate the fish. And the every dog has their day. And our day will come when we produce what we need to do to make that day come. And we can't quit in the middle of it. So self-initiative and self-discipline and self-control are essential. To thyself be true, and you can be false to no other man. Charity starts at home. All has to start with yourself and knowledge yourself. And that's why one of Mr. Garvey's most powerful, pivotal speeches would have been, in my opinion, "Man Know Thyself," which he mentioned was written on the walls in ancient Kemet, etc. And he defined that better probably than anybody could ever possibly define it in the annals of history. So with that, I'll just yield on those points.
Yes, President General. I want to welcome Brother Elder Shaka to the conversations. Great Garvey Day to you, sir.
Great Garvey Day to you. Great Garvey Day to all of our brothers and sisters that are on this call. The subject, initiative. It's a very important subject. And like all the lessons in the course of African philosophy, they were written for one purpose and one purpose alone. They were written so that the leadership of the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League would have what could help them as they studied it and read and put it into practice to build and keep alive the Universal Negro Improvement Association. If it's not used and applied to building and maintaining the Universal Negro Improvement Association, then it could just as well be read and studied and put into practice by the Japanese or the Germans or the British. It should have a special value to us because it's designed to help us. And if it's not used to help build the Universal Negro Improvement Association, in other words, if we address a lesson, we ought to be looking at that lesson to see what we can get out of the lesson to use, because it's lessons designed to further the program of the Universal Negro Improvement Association. The leaders of the Universal Negro Improvement Association have several tools that can be used by those who have initiative. They have initiative to embark on new and old ventures using new strategies to accomplish old goals, a willingness to do first things first. First, there are over 90 pages in the UNIA Constitution. The first page is the most important because it explains the mission of the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League. Imagine that you, each one of you, wanted to organize to redeem our race and our motherland, Africa. And let's say you were the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, seeking to define the mission and to initiate that movement. You would have to desire to have a social, friendly, humanitarian, charitable, educational, institutional, uh, constructive, and expansive society. Imagine taking the initiative as a member of the UNIA to break down each one of those components in the mission, the first part of the mission of the Universal Negro Improvement Association. Let's say you were to say, what would a social organization or society be like? What would a friendly society be like? What would a charitable society? And each one of those components, you took the initiative to define what that means and what that would look like, and then took the initiative to move to bring it into existence. So earlier, when our brother said people are asking what's happening with the UNIA, well, the UNIA doesn't have all of those components in place. It is not operating as a social, friendly, humanitarian, charitable, uh, educational institute. Not one school, uh, institutional, constructive, and expansive society. So when you don't have even the fundamentals in place, then the other components that come later in the Constitution, such as the other officers and auxiliaries and other departments of the UNIA, they won't even have a reality until somebody takes the initiative to put in place the fundamental building blocks of the Universal Negro Improvement Association. So that when people say they want to join the UNIA, they don't want to join Shaka Barak. They want to join the society or the government, if you will, or the organization, if you will, that says it is a social, friendly, humanitarian, not just says it, but shows that it is a friendly, humanitarian, charitable, educational, institutional, and constructive society. So I'm saying all of that to say that as we look at the lessons, let us always remember why they exist. They don't exist for your own personal development outside of the UNIA. They don't exist so that you can, plan some other kind of scheme for doing other kind of things. They're designed to help you build the UNIA as leaders in the UNIA. So as we go through the lessons, let's always keep in mind that there needs to be a discussion as to how to use the lessons to develop the UNIA. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. 100% correct. You know that these these lessons here are to build nations, to build our nation, is to build up the UNIA. That's what these lessons are here for. And if you read, just to veggie bank off of what the elder brother had said, if you read the actual, this is nothing to do with the lessons, but it says on the back of the book, it says, let me hope that into whomsoever's hands these lessons fall, that they may use them wisely. For in these lessons there is eternal life for the Africans at home and abroad, in that they testify to God's greatest gift to our race in the person of the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. You know, I think, you know, that quote at the back of the book is so profound. And, you know, one thing that he says is that Garvey was the greatest gift to our race, you know, and I, once hearing that, you know, is able now to make that statement, to make people understand how great Marcus Messiah Garvey is to our people. But, you know, the elder brother, he mentioned in his statement just then that, you know, we're not functioning how we should be functioning, one, which is 100% true. And we need to be using these lessons, brothers and sisters, to build, to improve our nation, to improve our organization. That must be always on our mind when we're doing whatever we're doing. When we're going to get knowledge or when we're going to do things, it must be, how can this benefit the UNIA London? Or how can it benefit the UNIA fraternity around the world? How, what is this I'm getting how am I gonna be able to use this to uplift our people? I saw President General was gonna say something and I spoke first, but go ahead, President General. Sorry to cut you.
Yeah. Well, no, I was just thinking as you talking, Brother Shock and others were talking that dealing with self-initiative, that Mr. Garvey had some pretty sharp words for those people who he considered lazy. Um, some who were intellectually lazy, who had no confidence in themselves, and people who he considered himself an inspirational agitator. He would love to inspire and help us see that we are more than what we've become. But at the same time, he will point out criticism when it's needed, and he wouldn't flatter us to save our lives. He wants us to do better and be better and stop making excuses, because people who are good at making excuses are seldom good for anything else. So when he tried to inspire us by referring to some of us as a group of lazy people who desire to level all initiative and intelligence and set a premium on stagnation. A lazy, sycophantic bunch of parasite Negroes who are afraid to work, who prefer to live hand to mouth and say, boss, beg you a dime, rather than pull off their coats and work for $1. He considered some of these intellectuals natural opponents of the program, the lazy element who believe always in following the line of least resistance, being of themselves void of initiative and the pioneering spirit to do for themselves. Professional Negro in the class who are agitating for social equality feel that it's too much for work for them to settle down and build up a civilization of their own. They feel it easier to seize on the civilization of the white man and under the guise of constitutional rights, fight for those things that the white man has created. And we never, as a race of people, are going to rise to the level of respect and dignity that we want if we keep being dependent, we keep being reliant on others, we keep not taking the initiative to go out and do things for ourselves. And Mr. Garvey was a man who had a program, had a solution, had a way of solving any of the problems that affected our race, because he felt himself, and we should feel ourselves to equal to any man out there. Anything that they have done, we can do. Anybody on the planet. And if you really feel that, not just talking it, and it sounds good to say, but actually know that you are as capable as anybody else, then you have no excuse. There's no way you can say that they won't give us a chance, because they don't have to give us a chance. We are just as good as they are. We're going to do whatever they did, so they can't stop us. Only one that can stop us is us, and that's because we lack that initiative to go out and make things happen. We always want to sit back and do some stuff, waiting for them to feed us, waiting for them to do this and do that. And I remember doing the race riots, not that I was in it, but from what I understand, the race riots back in the '60s, um, when Dr. King had got assassinated, and riots were going on in Washington D.C. They were burning down stores. Everybody was going wild. The federal government said, "How are we going to get this under wraps?" They said, "Oh, well, we know what to do. Just close the grocery stores and close the mom and pop stores and that we own. And if they have no food from us, they're not going to have anything to eat. They're going to stop. They're going to sit back and be quiet like good little boys, because they don't control nothing. They don't run anything. We don't want to feed them. We don't want to control the electricity. We control everything. So they're going to do exactly what we tell them to do, or else, they're going to starve to death." And basically that's how they, were able to get things under wraps. But who grants somebody that kind of power over them? And you don't want to wait till the last minute to find out that you are as powerless as you are, because you were, too lazy again to put these programs, emotions, and institutions together to do for us what we should be doing anyway for ourselves, and not depending on everybody to. You got so many people doing the Asian people doing nails and hair, and you got cooking your rice and noodles like you can't cook rice and noodles for yourself. And why are we so dependent on other people for this type of stuff? I remember back in the day, women would have parties where they would come over each other's house, do each other nails, they do each other's hair, and be looking just as beautiful as ever, and natural. And now, we got to go get this by somebody else. Every other community comes over here and grab those Negro pennies and make billions and trillions of dollars out of it and send it all back to China, send it all back to Europe, send it all back to South America, wherever else they come. They know Negroes have no loyalty to themselves. So anyway, we got to change some behaviors and some habits, because they will, form, as Mr. Garvey was talking about in the lesson, what we put in our mind will begin to formulate the habits that we develop. And you say, because your will is your decision is your intelligence is your personality, and your personality is your self-confidence and your initiative. So yeah, we're going to control what we think so we can control how we behave in our own best interests. We'll certainly produce a stronger, more sovereign, independent, thinking, acting race of people that would have some pride and dignity in what we accomplish, and not sit around and claim that we are things that we haven't demonstrated ourselves to be. Now, Garveyism ain't in the talk; it's in the walk. So, talking Garveyism don't make you no Garveyite. White folks can talk Garveyism, and still don't make them Garveyite. It ain't be like say hanging around Garveyites. Oh, I know a lot of Garveyites, but they don't make you one. I know a lot of doctors, but don't want me doing no surgery on you. Garveyism is in the practice, and the more you practice, that's what makes us respect you more. That's how you get your nobility in the Garvey movement, is by action. And the more you accomplish, the more credit and respect you're going to get by your peers. So anyway, that's a couple thoughts.
Well, I thank you and the brother for following behind what I had shared. That piece in the back of African philosophy is duplicated in many of the writings uh, of the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, where he or Amy would say, dedicated to the true and loyal members of the Universal Negro Improvement Association. Uh, that could have been said that way, but it was said another way, but it means the same thing, that the teachings of the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey are for the true and loyal members of the Universal Negro Improvement Association, with the idea in mind that they would use the lessons to help develop themselves in the service of the Universal Negro Improvement Association. So let's say, for example, we wanted to know how much, after having read the lessons, studied the lessons, and talked about the lessons, how much of the lessons would we say we actually put in practice, that are actually a part of how we live? Would we say that we operate in the use of the lessons in our lives at the level of 10%? In other words, if we were to draw upon how we have benefited from the lessons and how we use the lessons in our life, we use it at the level of 20%. Do we use it at the level of 50%, or 75%, or not at all, or 1%? Let's say 1%. What it would mean is that it was like Sando and Morima were talking about martial arts. There's a point in your training in martial arts or boxing where the coach determines how well you have learned the lessons, how well you are able to fight, or how well you're able to box or fight, and he throws you in the ring, or he works out with you. He has the mitts, so he tells you to jab. He tells you to punch. He tells you to jab real fast. He tells you to punch real fast. If you're grappling, he tells you to fight from the ground. He tells you to throw kicks and punches, so he can see how well you have learned the lessons that he's been trying to teach you on the subject of how to fight. Well, we as UNIA members and leaders have to be able to, one, as Marma said, first unto ourselves be true, and ask ourselves, how much of this do we practice in our own lives? Because we may have to set an example. I know in the UNIA, nobody's forcing you to do anything. So you want to stay on the plantation working for the white man, fine. You can be in the UNIA. If you want to be an entrepreneur and be in business for yourself and be able to travel around the world as Sando says he does, fine. The UNIA welcomes you as well. But at some point in time, we have to ask ourselves, are we going to be the ones that are going to set the example of how to live the life of a Garveyite? Meaning that we are able to do what the Honorable Marcus Garvey was able to do. He was able to travel through South and Central America. Can we do that? He was able to travel throughout Europe, 9 different countries for 2 years. Are we able to do that? He was able to travel around the United States when he first got here for a whole year. He went through 38 states. Are we able to do that? He was able to raise $100,000 a year off of public speaking at 50 cents an attendee. Are we able to do that? So at some point in time, when we get through talking about the lessons, we'll have to ask ourselves, how much of the lessons have we embraced, internalized, and that we can now show the world what these lessons mean to us and have meant to us by going out into the world and being that type of example that will attract others to us. But on the other hand, if we don't practice Garveyism, who are we going to attract? Because if we're just ordinary Negroes, ordinary Black people, ordinary Africans and people of African descent, what makes us attractive to other ordinary people? Because, as the Honorable Marcus Garvey taught in our end, he said that people are going to be attracted to you because of what you know and are able to do, not because you can talk, but do, in terms of being an example of what it is that a leader needs to be, and then taking the people in the direction that the leader needs to take the people for their own benefit. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I think brother Race first, we would definitely agree on that, because we've been saying that we need to study, and then someone would always ask, how do you know if the person is studying? We will know because we can test you. We will know by your actions. We will know that you've learned. Like the elder was saying that, at some point, the teacher is going to test the student, and he used martial arts as an example. You're going to have to go in the field and let's see what you know. And it's quite interesting to make that historical fact that Garvey raised so much millions off of 50 cents administration into these lectures. 50 cents. But yes, sir, definitely we have to be knowing better, and most definitely once you know better, you do better, as my grandmother would always say. So definitely we're moving up to the last 20 minutes in the lesson today. I don't know if anybody has wanted to say anything but hasn't had the opportunity to say anything as yet, before I add some more things from today's lesson. Brother Ray's first, is there anything that you want to add?
Yeah, I'd like to thank everyone that came on the call today.
We
Big
still
up
got
to
20 minutes
everyone.
though, brother. We still got
Oh,
20
we still got
minutes.
20 minutes.
Yeah,
Okay, I
yeah,
thought we
yeah.
were wrapping. I thought it was a
No,
wrap
no,
up,
we
but
still got 20 minutes. I just wanted to know if there's anything that you wanted to add to what the elder has said, or just in general.
no, I think everything's already been said. Everything's already been covered, and yeah, it's just to do. It's just all in the doing and the acting. Yeah, that's all I've got to say, basically.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Definitely. All right then. Well, there was something in the lesson that I wanted to bring to our attention. I'm just trying to find it in the page now. It was definitely to add to something brother Sando said about somebody returned back to the continent and unfortunately met their demise. Garvey said that you have the sad experience of learning how bad man is to rob his fellows of their rights. We know that mankind will do wickedness the first chance they get. In other chapters we've learned that we shouldn't trust people off for the first conversation. They should earn that trust. They should earn that respect from us. And we don't trust people by words alone. We trust people by their actions. Because a lot of people can say great things, but does their words match their actions? For a man to live by his words, is truly a great man or woman. But when I say man, I do mean woman also. To say something and be about it is a great thing. We spoke about character. The next chapter I think is personality, but we spoke about character and how important it is to have good character. In building up the UNIA, you have to have good character. I was reasoning with somebody yesterday, maybe it was this morning, and somebody made some statements in the community about the people that just work as painters and decorators or whatever they do. Some people will say low level jobs in society. Now, I don't share that view, and I was shocked to hear that this person made that statement, because we can't look down on our people. We're supposed to be bringing them up. You're going to judge our people, then you're not trying to build. Yes, we can correct our people, but if somebody's earning a decent living, we're gonna teach them self-reliance. We're gonna say, listen, that skill that you're using and you're giving to somebody else, you can use that skill and develop yourself and make money for yourself, just like you're making money for somebody else. But we're not gonna disrespect our brothers and sisters. Like there's a brother that cleans the street in my community. A lot of people will look down on him. He's cleaning the street, but every time I see this brother, I greet him and I'm like, how you doing, brother? Thank you for cleaning my streets, because you're keeping our area clean, that no rats are coming and foxes and rodents and these things. So everybody's job in society should be respected. And in building, you must respect all of our people. Garvey said that you must go and meet the members. You should even go to their house. You should visit them. But you can't just forcefully do these things. You've got to do it from within. It's got to come from within you. It can't come from anywhere else. If you don't truly want to do it, people can tell you're faking. Garvey, in another lesson, he says that people can tell when you're faking. They can feel it. They don't resonate with it. When you're genuine, you look people in their eyes when you talk. Garvey talked about not breaking the stare, but I'm talking in a different scenario here. People feel that energy when you talk. They resonate with you. They say, this brother's speaking some good things and he's matching it by his actions. What a great guy this is, or a great sister this is. I want to join the UNIA. I need to be wherever that brother's in or that sister's. I need to be a part of that. They did this great. They opened up some institutions. Like, I need to be with these brothers. I need to be with the, so one thing I'm stressing is we don't want to judge our people and look down on our people, especially if you're coming from like you're on some high horse. We don't do that in the UNIA. This is the Improvement Association, as the elder said from one of our first lessons, improvement. And he highlighted the word improvement. And it's a movement, not stagnant. We're moving, we're building. It's not a stagnant organization. We see Garvey had restaurants. We need our restaurants in London. You know, I'm not sure who, I think it was the President General was talking about the nails. Back in the days, sisters will go to their friend's house, they'll do their hairs, they'll do their nails, they'll beautify themselves in their house. Now they're going elsewhere to do it. We need to go back to going in the house where the sisters are doing it in their house. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with our sisters beautifying themselves by themselves. The problem is when you're giving something to somebody else. And last week I was touching on it. I can tell. I know this, there's not a contradiction to what I just said, but I can tell a lot about a person by the way they spend their money and what they spend their money on. I have friends that will say, I'm buying the new Jordan, yeah, but they won't buy themselves the £200 book, but they will buy themselves £200 trainers or sneakers for those that's in America. They spend their money in the bar or the gambling spot. I can tell a lot about a person by the way they spend their money, their thinking. Now, the Garveyites of yesteryears, they spent their money in the UNIA. We need to be trying to be doing that today. I know that there's some sisters in our organization in London trying to put together some things. I can't wait for that to manifest. And, of course, we're going to support our sisters to the fullness, but I can't wait for them to manifest these things. Because this is what we're about, doing. It's about the doing. They used to say, the proof is in the pudding. But, I always like to say, the proof is in the eating of the pudding. Because we have to taste it to know it. You can't just say the proof is looking at the pudding looks good. It looks good on the outside. Yeah, it looks like a good pudding. But when you taste it, it tastes like trash. No, you can taste it and say, this is some good pudding. You know what I'm saying? Like, this tastes good for my mind, body, and soul. It's strengthening me. It tastes good. This in the tasting. So we're Garveyites. The proof shall be in our actions, brothers and sisters. The proof shall be in the institutions that we're about to create, brothers and sisters. So we don't have to be arguing about whose philosophy is right. This one saying black Muslim, this one saying black Christian, Panaf, whatever. We're saying Garveyite. The proof is in the pudding. The proof is in what we've created, brothers and sisters. And I take our pause so that can sink in with us. That's where we're going to, when you get the results, then people was like, yes, sir, the proof is there. Now I understand now. Okay, I'm going to join that. That makes sense. Because, a lot of the time we spoke, Brother Ray's first mentioned it, I think it was last week or the week before, people wanted to know what is the manifestation of these ideas that we're having, or these thinkings, or these things. People want to see the action. I always put it back on them saying, we need you to make the action complete. But at the same time, what's the action, brothers and sisters? We need to be thinking on this. First we get the knowledge. Garvey says, seek ye the kingdom first in the same chapter. Let me find the quote right now. Seek ye first wisdom and understanding, and all life will be unfurl itself into you through God. So we seek Garveyism first, and then from that point, we will be able to breathe life into our brothers and sisters. We'll be able to breathe life into our community. The quote on the back of the book, says, for these lessons, there is eternal life. Eternal life, brothers and sisters. Eternal. Just like the name of the organization, the universal. Universal. Eternal. These words are not being used just for using words. There's power in the language, brothers and sisters. There's power in the language. Yes, it may not be our language. Some people will say it's not fine, but this is the language we speak. Yeah. So we're using the language to build us, to speak life into our people. Because even when we grew up, and many of us are coming from the church, they say the power is what? In the tongue. Be careful what you say, you know, because you will manifest it. Because there's power of life and there's power of death in the tongue.
Yeah, true. I think too this whole chapter, you know, it really is Brother Shaka and I have spoken before about when he first began to explore the mind of Marcus Garvey. It wasn't enough to just analyze what he wrote. He wanted to be able to synthesize thoughts like Mr. Garvey did. He wanted to be able to understand and think and reflect and act and be like Mr. Garvey was, by understanding everything that he consumed in his knowledge and wisdom and formulating his thoughts and ideas and philosophy toward the world. And so if you read into his talking about the fear of God and loving God and being in alignment with the Almighty and not disowning that, you know, being proud and you know, that sort of spirit, you get to see, you know, how he feared the displeasure of the Almighty by doing anything out of sync with what is right. And if you have righteousness on your side, having that conviction, if God be with us, who can be against us? That's the source of a lot of his strength. I mean, he could call Jesus, you know, the Christ, the standard bearer of success, a man who would give his life gladly if he had to on behalf of his friends. That's a kind of martyr or sacrifice that very few men can honestly make. And Mr. Garvey, you know, promised that he would be with us until the crash of the worlds and end of all matter, the wreck of all matter, and that, you know, he would walk the earth forever like Macbeth's ghost for us if need be. And you know, we every, you know, bit of it, because he demonstrated he would, you know, do everything for us while he was on earth. And so that the source of his conviction as well as his initiative was his spiritual leanings. And you know, it's just a blessing to be able to tap into the mind of a Marcus Garvey in these lessons and to compile all this information and data. I mean, even as Jesus worked with his disciples in his day, you don't get but a few quotes from Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and maybe John, who were right there with him, to can say too much about what he actually taught them. We know whatever he said was in keeping with the biblical, writings, etc. But you don't really have the words of Yeshua or Esau or Jesus talking about what he taught. But we have the actual written words of Mr. Garvey is taught to his disciples originally, and this it allows you to be as they were, in many respects, you know, to get firsthand, you know, from the man who accomplished more than anybody in the annals of history, as far as I'm concerned. It gets you into his mindset so that you can be as he. And like I say, the spiritual description is just, you know, almost overwhelming. To see how he, you know, thought. I mean, we knew some of his writings before, but you know, this particular, you know, part, it kind of goes back to the statement he made: the man has no master but God. And that when man fears another man like himself, he offends God, who created him in his image and likeness. And so, to understand that one with some of these explanations and stuff is just really, really drives that point home, you know, to, you know, stare a man directly in his eye, don't cringe, don't turn away, because you are submitting in some regards to his gaze. And so, you know, you can stand toe to toe with anybody. When you feel that way, you know, it's a lot of greatness that can be accomplished, miracles can be performed, you know. So anyway, just love this chapter.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I see we have our sister Kush in the building. Greetings, sister.
Greetings, family. Apologies for missing this session. I just want to
No,
forward on apologies for Sister Naisha as well. I'm sure she would have.
no, sister, you don't have to apologize. You know, you was out here doing
Yeah,
UNA business. It's
we
all,
would.
it's all love. It's all love.
Yeah. So I just add my little 2 pence to this. Not to make yourselves go over time.
No, it's
But
fine, sister. We can go over time if need be.
okay, I just, listening to yourselves, my brothers on here, talking about self-initiative and certain things that got said, it just really resonated with me, especially, I guess, coming from the event that we just were all organising in. And it just rang true so much more that, the UNIA is, as the brother said, however you see it as a government or an organisation or a philosophy, especially this chapter, it's quite rare to see an organisation promote initiative. If you really think of what self-initiative is, it's to enable a person to trust their thoughts. The organisation trusts their members to rely on their intelligence and then to utilise it and use it, of course, within the philosophy or the way of the UNIA, and then to execute it. And when you look at other organisations, it's quite, although they might, like as what's been said, they might talk a good talk, but when it comes to thinking for self, you find that it's, I don't want to offend anyone, but some might say it's a form of dogma where you have to just be told and nod your head. Whereas Garvey is always encouraging you to question, to, as our president and commissioner is always encouraging us to study. And to do that is to equip someone with not only confidence, but independence and initiative, because once you know better, um, as our brother said, you do better. It's innate in you. And don't get me wrong, there's some that know better. We all know they know better and they're doing the wrong thing, but that's not what we're about here. So um, that is another thing for anybody that is listening or contemplating or, thinking over about Garveyism and the UNIA, because where else are you really going to honestly really have somewhere that's telling you and expecting it? The UNIA has already structured ourselves out with roles. It's already come, it's like a big house. As I said to my brothers, like it's a big house already and there's loads of rooms set. So whatever place or position that um that suits your personality or your skills, we've got a place for you where we encourage you to improve in them skills, grow within them skills, and be the best that you can be. And to have an organization that encourages that, pushes that, is again something that's very rare in this time. And your success is in turn UNIA's success, but more importantly is the race success. So when you're talking about someone or an organization pushing for self-development and initiative, you're dealing with something that's very true and very pure. And I just wanted to just say that part there without going on and rambling. But yeah, that's what just came to me for me to jump on and say as I'm listening to the brothers' reasoning.
Yes, my sister. Thank you for that. It's always good when we have our sisters on the chat. They bring a balance to the discussion. So we appreciate your comment. We're happy to have you here with us. And yeah, 100%. Because we want you to know. We're trying to equip our brothers and sisters with the knowledge to know. So whenever they're in any surroundings, they know. People ask them a question, they can answer because they
And
know. And when you know something, you mentioned something that there's some people that know and don't live or don't. I think nowadays, yeah, they don't truly know, sister. Because if you knew, you know, you can't know. It's like if I give you a glass and you know there's poison in there, you're not gonna drink it. If you know that this glass contains poison and if you drink it, you're gonna die, you're not gonna drink it. So if people are still drinking, do they know? Do they really know that there's poison in that glass? They can't. They may know information, but they might not understand the information. So sometimes we may we may think that someone knows something based on the information they may give, but they may not understand the information they're actually saying. And I know a few brothers, not without naming names, but I know a few brothers that I like that they've read a lot, but I don't think they understood what they read.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? But based on their comprehension of things.
Yeah.
You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? And that's not to, take away anything from you saying I'm adding to it. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
no,
I'm adding to it,
I
so yeah.
absolutely agree, because even when you're saying about, when we're talking to our family members and we perhaps are putting them down, I don't know how that promotes initiative. I don't know how that's building someone up. Most of the people who have, especially within our community, who have put a big print in the world, have not come from, a silver spoon or the highest of education. They vary. And not to say that professionalism is not necessary or something that we shouldn't celebrate, because what the West deems as a professional role or anything like that, or something that should be um, reserved for the highest praises, we know that they got it from us. If we're talking about mathematicians, doctrines, science, we know where all of that starts. So we know we've got all of that and the ability to do that in us, period. So what we should be doing is not looking at how you're making an income, but where your heart lies. Where where you start is not where you'll end up either. So don't judge a person on where you see them now, but as what's been said, is to the actions. And that's why when you go to somewhere that is looking at who you pray to, when that's supposed to be a private affair, it's no one's business who you pray to. And UNIA is not going to ask you that at the doorstep. UNIA is not going to ask you certain things. The only thing the UNIA firstly wants to know is, are you race first, and are you ready to do the work? And if you are, do you have the initiative to go for that? And if you have, we're going to support you in that. And that's love. That's, some people might call it tough love, I call it real love. And that's what real love and real family is about. And that any organization, anyone that's coming to you trying to cut holes and trying to make you feel bad and asking you about your profession or who you pray to, there's these, to me, are flags. These are warning flags. But when an organization is coming to you saying that, I see this in you, I see better in us, I'd like to see you being the best of yourself, and and will support you in that. I will say that since joining this organization, I've had nothing but support and and encouragement. um, and I'm thankful for that, because I know behind all of that that's only love. There's nothing but love behind that. So I would just urge that, when we're talking about initiative, what that means, and what that means when an organization is actually telling you to think for yourself, to read, to study, to broaden your horizons. I think that I think that sets us, I mean, I might be biased, but I think that sets the UNIA apart from a lot.
Thank you, sister. I just wanted to support you in everything that you said.
Thank you.
And thank you for your words of encouragement. It's so, like the Honourable Commissioner was saying, it's so good to have our sister's presence and to give their first. It's so encouraging. Thank you so much for that. And I just want to just add a little bit, as we have a few in the room.
Please
And
do.
what you were talking about, us elevating ourselves to the highest level. And, the importance of elevating ourselves to the highest level of I'll use their words, understanding or wisdom, and how that's going to elevate us to a higher level of consciousness that we can be of use to our communities. Yeah. And I like what you said about I've got disruptions going on anyway, it's just distracting me. But the point where we're going to go forward in confidence, knowing that we've got a good doctrine, a good philosophy behind us. And the example I was gonna use really before somebody went in the kitchen and started making noise is that I've been in some situations before, And I remember one situation when I was in Ghana, and for some reason I ended up amongst the Muslim community, and I had some Rastafarian hair on my head and whatever. But they sort of invited me into their Friday meetings and whatever and whatever. And we, and there was an Alaji there that I became a very good friend with. And me and him used to have a lot of discussions. And I used to talk to him, and I used to say to him, "Well, I know where you people come from. I know the history. I know when you came into Kemet. I know what where Muhammad got his philosophies from. I know that he studied in Kemet, and he went back to Arabia. I've studied the whole story, and in the end, you know what the Alaji said to me? He said we're all brothers. He said we're all brothers, and the only difference is I don't partake in what they do.
Yeah.
I don't partake in their rituals and their things, but I was accepted. When I say I was accepted, I used to go there. I've seen things that a lot of people would not be allowed to see, but they accepted the fact that because I had a knowledge. This is the point I'm really coming to. Sorry for the distraction. Is that once we're armed with the information and the knowledge, whichever. So if you go into the village, or you're going to a village in Ghana, or you're going to a village there, they've got their customs, they've got their cultural systems there. But what we go armed with, the knowledge that we go armed with, not weapons, not physical weapons or big stature, but the intelligence, the intellect will stop us from being distracted or being carried away by any sort of dogma which is not race first. And I in my experience, when in the highest levels of society, when people do come across that intelligence, if they come across our honorable, assistant, our honorable president, Mariama, with the vast amount of knowledge that he has, he's unwaverable, he's unmovable, he's like a rock. And I think that is the lesson 14. I think it's actually encouraging us to be that rock, to be so fortified with Garveyism and the philosophies, not to be distracted by dogma and other social tendencies, but to be focused solely. And I must say, I'm not saying it just sometimes everything takes time, but we have to just keep striving for it. It's not an easy road. I say to a lot of people, Garveyism is not a walk in the park. It's not something that you're going to find out when you have to start moving. You're going to find out. The right honourable gentleman said that Marcus Garvey went to a lot of countries in Europe, and he went to a lot of countries in South and North America, and in England, and so many different, and in Jamaica. And as he was traveling, he was seeing the disadvantage of our race in France and Germany and Belgium. All the countries that signed the act, signed the act to invade Africa. All the countries are there. He saw all of that, and even though, I think the right honourable said before, without the money or without the attributes and without the army behind him, he persevered. He had that. He had the ammunition that he needed. He was a rock. He was not going to be deterred or be caught up in any other issues or any other philosophies that undermined our race. He was solid as a rock. He was fortified with wisdom and understanding in all aspects of different social liberty or dogmas, religious, whatever it might be, politics even. He was outside of academia. He was studied. He was learnt. So therefore, he could never be. He could never have been, or could never, and he had to be fortified. And I think all of the followers or all the people that are around him at that time, they saw that intellect, they saw that fortitude, they saw that solid understanding and wisdom that could probably at that time was probably not widespread. Or if it was not broadcasted amongst all of our people, because we were scattered all over the Western Hemisphere. So he was able to knit everything together and be that voice, with that fortitude, with that knowledge, with that knowledge of so many different things, the sciences, the arts, everything that you could think of. From what I've read of this man, this great man, is that he was knowledgeable in all things. So I do appreciate and I do condone our right honourable president and the commissioner and all of the people who have been advocating that we should carry on studying, and we should not cease. We should not cease from studying. We should not cease from raising ourselves to the highest levels of academia and being fortified like a rock to know that, yes, we talked about martial arts and being confident and going into different areas, and what makes you, what makes it that you come out alive and other guys go in there and they don't. It's discipline. It's a fortitude. It's a you know, like I was saying with my Muslim and with most Muslim friends, because I just, and they, the other day I went I went to drop something off for a friend of mine by a mosque, and the Muslims are standing on that side. One of them lifted up his arm. He said he had a pain. I said, my brother, come on, I can help you. I said, come on, brother, I can help you. I've got something for that. I know I've got something for that. At first, it was like total rejection. You don't pray 5 times. I'm not going to talk to you. You're not praying 5 times. I'm not talking to you. But when I said, I can fix that. I've got something at home that can fix it. And I started to explain to him about the injury that he had and the new technology that could probably heal that stiff shoulder that he had. And being a martial artist, I knew what his problem was. And he came on. In fact, the 3 of them came and they spoke to me for about 10 or 15 minutes. Yeah. And why was I able to get that conversation with them? Because I said to them, look, I said, I basically told them that I know your whole history, where you came from, whatever. And he said, oh, and I said, but we're like Marcus Garvey says, God is for everybody. That's what I said to him. I said, God is for everybody in their terms. I said, God is for everybody. And the conversation went on for about 10, 15 minutes before they departed. And what you've just said there just brought that event back, because it's having that knowledge, that fortified wisdom that Marcus Garvey obviously had to have to basically break the barriers amongst so many different cultural differences, to bring them all together. Without, like the sister said, don't reject somebody because they're a shoe. And I don't. I have the same philosophy, my sister. I really appreciate what you said. I really, really did appreciate what you said there. And it brings to mind another incident that I remember of Dr. Akligo Zombie. He was a chief physician to Kwame Nkrumah. And he studied in India for about 15 or 16 years. I met him in Ghana, and I became like his son. And one day he sat and he was talking to me, and he said, Sando, one day I said, I'm looking at, I wasn't called Sando then, by the way, but Sando. And he said, the government commissioned me to look for this very rare plant. This very, very rare plant. And nobody can find it. He said, I've been looking for it. I've been into every village. I've asked everybody that I could ask about this plant. I've gone there with pictures and everything. I've been there to the elders. In the deepest forest, he said, I can't find this, but I've been trying for 10 years. And he said, one day I was in Aburi Gardens up in Aburi in the mountains there. And he said he saw a beggar on the roadside, really suffering. And he went over to the beggar. And I think he gave him something to eat or something. And then he took out the picture of the plant and he showed it to the beggar. And the beggar said, oh, I know where that is. Come. And I think that is a perfect demonstration. When you said that, it sort of just brought all that memory back, that we should never undermine any other human being, because we don't know what knowledge they have. We don't know what they bring to the table. So I'm gonna let obviously give the floor to somebody else. And thank you so much, sister, for inspiring me to talk. Just with the few words that you said, to recall and to strengthen what you said about, we must not ever undermine anybody, whatever standard they appear to us. And our great leader always told us to always obviously present ourselves in the best light, always be clean, always, obviously be at the best that we can be when we are presenting ourselves, without undermining, because Mr. Garvey must have had those attributes to know that the lesser, or what we might conceive to be the lesser amongst us, could actually be the person that basically liberates. So after 10 years, 11 years of looking for this plant, it was a beggar that was on the floor that most people would have walked past, maybe not even give him a CD. That was what made Dr. Akligo find that plant. And Dr. Akligo was the first person, because he showed me, that actually invented what they call a solo fuel. The West don't want us to know this. He's an African man, a Garveyite as well, being the chief physician to Kwame Nkrumah.
That's
and the
Quaker
advisor
land,
to
though, right?
J.J. Rawlings and many other presidents.
That
He
was
invented a solar fuel, which is patented, and he's made it from tomatoes.
That's beautiful.
You know what I mean?
that
And they
was
say that we as a black race, he's got 7 patents, because when I came to London, he asked me to check on them, and that's how I know. But I know he's dead now. He's passed on. He's gone join the ancestors. But he was like showing me things, and he was putting in my mind that these things that we as a black people, as an African race of people, are capable of anything, and and that is our true strength. That is our true power. And if I said this to somebody, oh, you can, he took me to he had a VW, one of the oldest VWs I've ever seen, in a garage at the back of his house. And he said, that is the VW. I'd put a gallon of that into that, my solar fuel in that, and it'll go via. But what happened? The fuel, I'm sharing this because I know that's what you wanted me to do. I'm sure that's what you wanted me to do. Why he told me these things. He told me a lot of other things too. But it was suppressed. In Ghana, tomatoes get thrown away. they grow so much tomatoes that they can't eat them. They haven't got no canning fat. They throw them away. You see, so we, before I come down and just reiterate on that statement which the sister said, and which we should all try to adopt, and I will also try to adopt it more in my life, which is never to undermine the least, or what I may perceive to be the least of us, because of condition or social standing, because within that person could be my liberation. So I yield to the floor.
Yes, Brother Sando. Thank you for that beautiful example of the man, the beggar, knowing the answer to the question that many wise leaders, chiefs, and things couldn't know. So you shouldn't judge somebody by by your understanding of things, because many of the people that I've learned a lot from, they wasn't necessarily in the higher part of this society. They weren't big lawyers or doctors or politicians. They were just people from my area that took the time out to study. And we've read about this in the other chapters. When you study, you can become like the university student. Take it from me. I was a high school dropout, never did anything. I've been around presidents, and they've had conversations with me, and they haven't looked down to me. Like, how does, like, treated me like a lesser person, because my knowledge presents me in a higher light. And I don't judge nobody by the car that they drive, or any material things. I judge people by their mind and their commitment. That's how I judge people, me personally. But we are moving over. I don't know if the Sister Kush wanted to say something in response to what you said before I hand it over to our President General to close us out.
Yeah, I would just like to. I'd like to actually give thanks for the brothers on there to giving me the space, and it's important for that to also be normalized again. That brothers and sisters can be in the same space, and it's the balance is necessary, and so I give thanks for that. And again, I'll follow on what Brother Minister said to the example that Brother Sando gave. It's very powerful. I will add though, when you said about the studying, and way we're taught to study is kind of to recite and then regurgitate, and that's kind of like what you were saying, and some of the brothers were saying that you know those who study but never put it into practice, it's quite worthless, because you don't understand the value of what you're studying until you have to put it in purpose. So those who, like what Brother Minister said, might not have necessarily gone to university because they teach you to be workers. They don't teach you to use your own initiative. They don't teach you to be that spark to change the world, unless you're in private school and the elite. And that's why all of the politicians all go to the same university, all go to the same type of places, because in those set places you are taught to use your initiative. You are told that you're going to be the next leader, and you're spoke to very differently than the child that's in the school where they don't have to pay for the school and it's a state funded school. That's not what we're taught. We're taught to nod our head. This is A and B and C. And then when you get a test, you better say A, B, and C. When I tell my son this all the time, when I was going to school, there was 9 planets. Now Pluto's not a planet, right? And these are the greatest people in the world that apparently that we're always supposed to listen to. So it's always about developing your knowledge and applying it as well. And I think there's that you, sometimes the brothers do get pushback and in regards to, you know, wanting to do something. But I will say to the brothers as well that those who are studying and then saying that they want to do something is a testimony to them studying, because once you learn stuff and you want to reply and it kind of just gives you that spark in your head, like, oh, okay, I get it, you want to implement it. You want to do you understand? So in turn of studying kind of does give you the kind of activity that you want to come. So the studying is not about just dormantly reading something and not taking it in. It's reading it and then thinking, how can I implement this? How can I use this knowledge? And then once you figure it out, then you're going to be itching to go. You know, you're going to be itching to go. And if someone says, no, you can't go yet because there's this one more book to get you to that point, you can't wait to read that book so you can get to that extra bit of knowledge. So now you can really implement it. So I'm saying that anything that in my experience that is good, it always has like a full circle moment. Everything just aligns together. So the studying in turn does make you want to just get on and do it, you know, do the stuff that you can envision, that whatever you're reading is making you envision. It makes you want to do the action. Hopefully that makes sense. So that's the part that I want to say to that.
I'd just like to add to what you just said there, sister, from a deeper study that I'm studying at the moment, and what you were saying about people wanting to when you sort of as you study and as you read. I'm talking about philosophy, and people can, obviously you can go and check what I'm saying if I'm saying rubbish. Is that your mind automatically looks for answers?
Mm-hmm.
Your mind actually it goes into it. It's like when you read I've realized this, because when you read a line or something, you've given your your mind, your philosophy, your old concept of your neurological background. You've given it a task to do. You've said, I need to know the answer to this.
Yeah.
I need to know what the answer is to this. And until I know, I'm just going to be your mind, So every time we read, this is what I've found out. I don't know if anybody wants to agree with me, but every time you read, you've set that neurological mechanism in motion, looking for answers. Even when you're sleeping, it's looking for answers. It's looking for the solution to that paragraph that you read, or for that line that you didn't underline, or you made a note of, and it's looking for it, and it's searching, it's analyzing that until it gets to the point where it says, yes, the verdict is in. Yes, everything is agreed. We've pondered on it, and yes, that cannot be taught, my sister.
Yeah.
That cannot be taught, and I think the honourable president and the honourable commissioner, who are saying read, because when you read, it leads from the conscious to the subconscious. I'd like to say the higher conscious, not the sub, because sub is below, but it goes to the higher conscious of your mind. You've given your mind activity. By reading, you give your mind activity, and your neurological system, all of the electromagnetic and the chemical reactions that happen to your body with the cells, the genes and everything, activates just by reading.
Absolutely.
Just by reading. And without no exercise. So I'm going to leave the floor there now. I just wanted to strengthen on that, and that's what we're doing. And maybe I've just discovered it, but I just wanted to share that with everybody in the room. I yield.
Yes, thank you for that, Brother Sando. And I hope you have a safe flight, and definitely we will be in communication in the coming weeks. I want to thank everybody for attending this Sunday lesson today. It truly was a blessing. It's always good to have conversations and study together. They always say a family that eats together stays together. So a family that studies together also stays together. I've seen that the President General was just come offline. I think he may have got a call, so I'm just going to end this with our motto: one God,
One God,
one aim,
one
One
aim,
one destiny.
One
one
destiny.
destiny.